This is part 1 of the data entry portion for economic development. In this video, we will walk through the process of adding an economic development activity that meets the low mod job national objective. The best way to learn IDIS is to get hands-on practice. I want to encourage you to log on to the UAT version of IDIS and enter the data as you follow the video. You can pause the video at any time by clicking on the pause button in the lower left-hand corner. You can switch back and forth between this video and IDIS by holding down the Alt key on your keyboard and then pressing the Tab key. If you're not already logged into UAT, pause the video and do so now. You'll know if you're in the UAT version of IDIS if you see UAT at the top of the screen. If you do not know how to access UAT, there are directions at the bottom of the IDIS login page and also in Module 1 of this course. I will be using the data found in Case Study 5 of the course materials. You can use the case study or simply make up the data as you go along. Assignment 1 of our case study instructs us to input the data for a job creation loan to Thompson Automotive. In Assignment 2, we will report accomplishments and update the status to complete. We'll start at the home page of IDIS. To add an activity, we will click on Projects Activities in the navigation menu. The system, by default, shows the search activities. This is used to find existing activities. We don't need to look for an existing activity, we need to create a new one. If you look to the left, you will see all of your options for projects and activities. You should see under Activity a link labeled Add. If you don't see this, your user profile may not have permission to add activities, in which case you would need to talk to your local administrator to obtain this permission. Once you click on the link, the system will take you to the Add Activity page where we can start entering data. If you are following along in your course manual, we are now on page 3-2. Most users can skip past the Activity Owner field as it will default to the correct grantee. The next field is Program Year. Click on the drop-down arrow and select the year you want. If you don't see the correct year, this most likely means that you have not yet set up projects for that year. You need to add your projects first. Then come back and add your activities. In the case study, we set up our projects for 2010. In the next field, you will select the project that you want to associate with this activity. If you completed Module 2 of this course, you should see the projects you added. I'm going to select the Economic Development Project. If you did not complete Module 2, for the purpose of this training, you can select any project. The next field is Activity Name. The activity name appears on the CAPER reports, so try to use a descriptive name that an average person reading the CAPER would be able to understand. It's a good idea to establish a naming convention that will help you quickly identify what each activity is. In the case study, our activity is representing a loan made to a specific business. I will use Economic Development Loan Thompson Automotive for the activity name. The Grantee/PJ Activity ID is another field that can help you identify the activity. This is an optional field. HUD does not require it. Many grantees populate this field with information that will help them reconcile their IDIS information and their local financial records, such as a contract number, purchase order number, or local accounting code. The next field is very important. If you click on the Activity Category field for CDBG, you'll see a list of all of the eligible uses for CDBG and their corresponding matrix codes. It's important to select the most appropriate matrix code here because the system will prompt us for different sets of information based on the matrix code we select. Most of the economic development matrix codes start with 17 or 18. For our case study, the most appropriate matrix code is 18A, Direct Financial Assistance to a For-Profit. If you're having trouble choosing the matrix code, refer to Appendix A of the manual for some guidance and descriptions of each code. You can also work with your CPD representative to find the right one. The next field is Environmental Assessment. You will want to check with whoever in your office is responsible for environmental review. For our case study, I will choose Complete. To the right of Environmental Assessment, you see a field called Allow Another Organization to Access This Activity. You only need to provide this information if you will be giving IDIS access to a subrecipient, so they can add their own data to the system. In general, CDBG grantees do not provide IDIS access to their subrecipients, so let's skip past this field. The last field is the description field. HUD has not provided any guidance on the amount of detail you need here, so just use common sense. The main audience for this information is your HUD CPD representative, so you may want to discuss with them the level of detail they would like to see. For the case study, I'll put in a short sentence describing how CDBG funds will be used. Once you are done providing the data, let's click Save at the bottom. If you provided all the required data, you should see an Activity Saved message at the top of the screen. If you missed a required field, the system will prompt you for that information before it will let you save the screen. A quick note about required fields. The fields marked as required are the fields that the system will make you populate before saving the screen. There are many fields that are not required by the system that your HUD CPD representative will want to see answered so they can get a full picture of how the funds are being used. With that said, try to fill out every field you see if it applies to the activity, even if it is not marked as a required field. When the page is saved, the system will assign an IDIS activity ID to the activity. You'll want to write down this number in your project file, as it is a quick way to find the activity in the system. You will also see that the system added some additional fields, including activity status, which defaults to open, the completion date, and the initial funding date. You will also see a new column in the activity category table called Ready to Fund. In the row for CDBG, it says No. This means we still need to provide more data and complete activity setup before we can commit funds and draw money against this activity. To complete activity setup, we'll click on the button in the Setup Detail column for CDBG called Add CDBG. This is the first of 2 pages of Setup Detail. In the manual, we are on page 3-5. Take note that the system is displaying the matrix code in big bold letters across the top of the page. As noted earlier, the data we need to input will be based in part on the matrix code we select. The type of data we need to collect will also depend on the national objective we select, which is the first field on this page. If you click on the drop-down, you will see a list of national objectives available for the selected matrix code. The system will limit your choice of national objectives based on the matrix code we selected on the first page. If you don't see the national objective you want, chances are you selected the wrong matrix code. There is a nice help feature built into the system here. If you click on the Lookup Table, the system will open a cross-reference table in a new window. A printed version of this table is also included in Appendix C of the course material. The table has 3 columns: matrix code, national objective, and accomplishment type. To use the table, first find your matrix code. In the case study, we selected 18A. Once we find our matrix code, we look in the middle column to see the different national objectives we could use for this activity. Once we select a national objective, the third column will tell us what accomplishment types we can use for the activity. For our case study, we will use low-mod jobs, or LMJ. You may notice that there is more than one LMJ national objective. In most cases, you will use the 3-letter code. For more information on selecting national objectives, you can refer to Appendix B of your manual, which will provide descriptions and references to the appropriate sections of the CDBG regulations. Our next field is accomplishment type. You will see that the system is not giving us a choice here. It's saying that based on our selected matrix code and national objective, we have to measure jobs. HUD allows grantees to space the proposed benefits over more than 1 year if the grantee feels that the project will take more than 1 year to complete. For many economic development projects, it may take the business several years to satisfy the job creation requirements. To spread the proposed goal over more than 1 year, we can add a year by pressing the Add Another Year button. For our case study, let's assume the business proposed to create 3 jobs in the first year and 2 additional jobs in the second year. The next 2 fields relate to HUD's performance measurement framework. If you want more information on performance measurement, there is a lot of material on the HUD CPD website. The objective is used to indicate why you are undertaking the activity. For this activity, I will choose Create Economic Opportunities. There is no right answer here, and it's somewhat subjective. You will want to be consistent with how you classified the activity in your plan. The outcome is used to indicate what we hope to achieve by undertaking the activity. For this activity, I will choose sustainability. Again, there is no right or wrong answer here. HUD will accept your selection as long as you have a rationale for your choice. Next is the address field. We will use the address of the business where the jobs will be created. HUD will use this information to determine what areas of the community are receiving a benefit. Once you have provided the address information, click on Validate this address. If the system is able to validate, you can click on this icon and get some information about the address provided. In some cases, the system will not be able to validate the address, in which case you can skip the validation process at this time. The next section is labeled Activity Purpose and contains 4 yes/no questions that describe who will benefit from the activity. Answer yes or no based on the type of activity you are carrying out. In our case study, we can leave everything as no. On the right side of the screen is a section labeled Associate to another activity, with the question, will accomplishments be reported at another activity? You can use this field when you have more than one activity in IDIS for the same scope of work. For example, some grantees choose to track their program delivery costs for their economic development program under a separate IDIS activity. They may have 10 IDIS activities to represent the 10 loans they issued and an additional activity for program delivery. In order to avoid double counting of beneficiary data, you can answer yes to this field for program delivery and then reference one of the other 10 activities here. You will use the next section to indicate who is carrying out the activity. If the grantee is carrying out the activity with its own staff or through contractors, you will answer yes to the first question and then choose one of the selections from the drop-down. If the activity is being carried out by a subrecipient or other entity, you will answer no to the first question. When you do so, you will see the information below become active, at which point you can click on Select Organization to choose your subrecipient and select the type of organization from the drop-down on the right. For the case study, we will select yes to the first question and select Grantee Employees in the drop-down on the right. The next section is Target Area. While the field is not required, it is important to provide this information when it is applicable. You will see 3 types of target areas available from the drop-down: CDFI, Local, and Strategy. There is more information on each in Appendix E of your manual. CDFI stands for Community Development Financial Institution. It's the least common target area. You will only select it if a CDFI is carrying out the activity and is utilizing the regulatory flexibility provided for CDFIs under the CDBG regulations. The local target areas are defined by the grantee and do not require HUD approval. A local target area would be any area where the grantee is making a concentrated effort to improve the area. Grantees may want to refer to their action plan, which should list any target areas. If a grantee uses this feature, the PR84 report will summarize your accomplishments for each target area. The next section is called Special Characteristics. You simply check the box next to each field if it applies. If you are not sure if they apply or not, refer to page 3.9 in your manual. Grantees in states that border Mexico will see an additional choice for colonias. If you place a check next to brownfield redevelopment, the system will prompt you to indicate how many acres are being remediated. The next section is a collection of checkboxes that relate to specific regulatory requirements of the CDBG program. If the activity involves one-for-one replacement or displacement, you will see additional narrative fields during the completion of the activity that can be used to describe how the grantee complied with these requirements. A common method for funding economic development activities is a revolving loan. If you use a revolving loan for your program, be sure to check this box. If you check Float Funded, the system will prompt you for additional information regarding the float funding at the bottom of the screen. Once you're done, you'll see our options at the bottom. If we click Save, the system will save the data and return us to the previous screen. We still have one more page of data entry, so we want to click Save and Continue. This will bring us to page 2 of Setup Detail. If we hit Cancel, the system will not save any of our changes and it will take us back to the previous page. Here's the last page of Setup Detail. Once we complete it, we will be done with activity setup. The matrix code and national objective are listed at the top of the page. The data we need to enter is based on the matrix code and national objective we selected. In this section, you will report the budget of the activity. Notice that the CDBG field is grayed out. Once you draw funds against this activity, the system will populate that field for you. You'll also notice that these fields are not required by the system to complete the screen. This is because some activities are fully funded by CDBG, and these fields would be blank. If the activity does have other funds involved, it is important to provide this information. At the time of activity setup, you may not know the final budget for an activity. If that's the case, it's okay to provide budget estimates at this point. One of the ways the CDBG program is evaluated at the federal level is its ability to leverage other funds. If filled out correctly, this section helps demonstrate that CDBG funds are in fact leveraging other available dollars. Once you have provided information here and the activity has drawn CDBG funds, the system will calculate a leveraging ratio for the activity. The next section collects data on how CDBG funds are being distributed to beneficiaries. In our case study, the business is considered a beneficiary. Let's report 1 in the loan field. Once we populate the loan field, the system will want details regarding the loan in the section below, including the interest rate, amortization period, and total amount. For the case study, let's assume that the interest rate is 0, the amortization period is 5 years, and the amount loaned is $100,000. In cases where there is no set amortization period, such as when a loan is due upon sale or transfer, you can use 99. This last section collects data on the number and type of jobs expected to be created or retained. For the 2 columns related to full-time jobs, report the number of jobs that will be created. For the 2 columns related to part-time jobs, report the number of weekly hours that will be worked by the part-time jobs. The system will divide the number of weekly hours by 40 to calculate the number of full-time equivalents, or FTEs. For the case study, I will put in 4 full-time positions, 3 of which are expected to be available to low and moderate income persons. I will also put in 2 part-time positions that will each work 20 hours per week. Since the system wants weekly hours, I'll put in 40. I'll also assume that both part-time jobs will be filled by low and moderate income persons. When we're done, click Save. This saves the second page and takes us back to the page we started at. If everything went well, we now see that the activity is ready to fund. The system gives you a button that will take you straight to the activity funding screen for this activity. At this point, go ahead and fund the activity, then create a drawdown. The next section of this module will demonstrate how to report accomplishments and complete this activity. For step-by-step guidance for the activity funding and drawdown, refer to the video for the funding and drawdown module.